presented by Prize Picks. $100 match on your first deposit. Welcome to Light Years. Andy Lou, how you doing, my man?
We're back. We're doing good. The Warriors, we are headed to the end, I think, Samuel. So you and I, we've got some fun to do the next couple weeks.
It's been funny watching Team USA and seeing not just Warrior fans freak out, but all Americans, all NBA fans now everyone's a member of Warriors Twitter reacting to Steve Kerr.
I watched the entire South Sudan game, and it was I was on the East Coast, so it was maybe 4 o'clock on a Saturday afternoon.
Yeah, like 3 to 5 or 3 to 6, something in that range. Yeah,
it was just like it was 7 o'clock on a Wednesday night, watching it with the rest of the Warriors fans online. I was seeing like big fan accounts of other teams talk about, what is this lineup? Why is there no timeout? Why is it 5 in, 5 out? And I'm just sitting there laughing. I'm like, I'm annoyed because I see it all the time, but now I'm laughing because now I'm seeing everyone else annoyed, and it's actually pretty funny.
It's kind of cathartic because, look, Steve Kerr is a 4-time championship coach. Ultimately, he's going to go into the Hall of Fame as a coach. Like, I think we both agree, in aggregate, great coach, but that doesn't mean he doesn't have his blind spots. And it's always funny when you get on the internet and people are like, "Oh, you guys are so spoiled. You're blah 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 about Steve Kerr," and I'm like, man, just trust us. We know our coach better than you know your coach, you know? And so watching, like you said, all those big accounts get all mad about everything he's doing, it reminds me of that meme where the guy's just like, first time, you know?
I don't even know where that's from. I know that's James Franco, but I never know where that's from. I don't know. I'm a movie guy too, but that's exactly how I feel. Is it? It feels like, is it your first? It is our 10th season, whatever it is, watching this.
And I would say specifically like the last 5, like specifically since the Warriors have no longer had kind of a talent advantage, you know, that some of Steve's blind spots are way more obvious than maybe they were in 2017, where he could do whatever the fuck he wanted. It didn't really matter.
That's the right way to put it. I think it's his weaknesses getting more pronounced and the NBA changing, because you don't get to rewrite history about Steve, right? Because they don't win that initial championship without him at all. And then there's no dynasty without him becoming the Warriors coach. So you got to remember, this team was a first-round exit without Steve, and he changed everything. But the NBA changes. You know what I mean? And systems change, and players change, and styles change thanks to Steph. And what you're saying is right. Like, some of the flaws that he's had his whole career didn't matter as much back then. Then it definitely didn't matter in 17-18. But it I think matters a lot more now. Though it is funny because they still have the most talent possible. They have literally the most talented team possible, and we're seeing some of those flaws come to I don't know, fruition.
Is he the right man for the job, or should he run, since there's a newly vacated seat for the Democratic nominee? Is it time for Steve Pelosi?
Who would be Nancy Pelosi in this situation?
As the kingmaker?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, right? Who would that person be for I actually have no idea.
I don't know. For Team USA, actually, no, I know the answer. For Team USA, it's Nike. It's like the shadowy Phil Knight figure. I don't think it's Phil Knight, but it's whoever's running Nike basketball these days. If you wanted to go full conspiracy theory, because that's always been the thing. You know, it's Nike guys. Nike guys get the shine. Shout out LeBron getting to carry the flag out during the opening ceremony. Is that on Friday? Later this week. But yeah, no, it's funny. Like let's get into it though. I do want to talk to you about, like, let's talk Team USA first. What should he be doing to improve this team? Because like winning, they should have lost the South Sudan game. They really should have lost that game. And it's not just one game. It's like pretty much, except for the second half versus Serbia, they've looked incredibly underwhelming. They look like a team who's gonna get beat at some point in the Olympics if they don't snap out of it soon.
Yep. Yep. It's the exact same issue that they had last, was it FIBA? Is that what they call it? Whatever
The
it
World
was.
Cup, yeah.
World Cup. So the last World Cup, it's the exact same issue. There's no urgency. There's absolutely no urgency, and it's not bad roster construction. It's bad lineup construction. And what Steve's always good at is patience, right? 82 game seasons. He's going to go to his guys. Or even at 48-minute games, he's going to go to his small lineups, or at least that speed lineup, which used to be impossible to defend. He used to go to that at the end of games, and we used to say, "Well, he should go to that more often." And I think it's happening to this team now. It happened last year. He's unwilling to move away from Embiid at the 5 when it's very clearly the wrong decision. And it's not about the numbers. It's about what we can see with our eyes, right? The team is specifically built for the best pathway is built so that Steph and LeBron can handle the rock, shoot the rock, and then you just put defense around them. It's that simple because the team is that talented. Yeah, that's it. That's it. And there's no need to have Embiid. So when they had that first lineup out there where Embiid was there, just holding the ball, it immediately reminded me of Jalen Brunson starting, and the team just look. Are they going to win? I disagree with you. I think they're going to win every single game, but it's going to be gross to watch. I don't like watching the team. How is it possible that we don't like watching the team when the team has LeBron and Steph on it, and KD's going to be back at some point here? Like, how is this team hard to watch? And that's the problem.
Oh, I think they're at major risk of getting upset if this sort of play catches up to them. And Embiid is the most pronounced one, but I'm just looking at it from a more holistic level. Like, you're correct. Steve's biggest strength and his biggest weakness is his patience. I could see what he's trying to do with Embiid. He's trying to build his confidence up. He's trying to activate him to understand he could be a passing hub. He could be an Andrew Bogut for this team. And if he does that, it adds a new layer to this team, right? I'm sure over an 82-game season that would work. You got 2 weeks. You got 3 weeks. It's unrealistic. So it's like, this is where I kind of have some sympathy for Steve Kerr, and I blame the selection committee a little bit. Like, you know who he is as a coach. Why are you putting players on the team who you have to change their style of play? He's incredibly rigid with his system, but the system works if you put the right players in it. There's no doubt about it. 4 championships proves it works. You know, you should be putting, like, if you put the perfect Steve Kerr team out there, you would probably get rid of at least 2 to 3 of the stars on this team and add more Mikal Bridges, Derek White, those type of players. Because who
would be off?
Embiid would be gone. Because like AD and Bam that's enough 5 for you. That's enough 5 for you. If you want a third one, throw Draymond out there. You know he works in the system, right? Like, that's the sort of thing. I'm looking at like Tatum and Ant Edwards. They both want to stop the ball and go one-on-one most of the time. They're both capable of not being that player, but are they going to really transition to being 3-and-D players in a 3-week period when all year they're asked to handle the rock? Like, it's unrealistic. You put Mikal Bridges out there, he knows exactly who he is. He's not going to try to ISO. He's going to hit the corner 3 and guard the other team's best man. You know, that's why Jrue Holiday, obvious fit here. Jrue knows who he is and he knows who he isn't. And that's kind of where I'm sitting here and I'm going, if you're going to have Steve Kerr as the coach, pick a certain amount of stars. Newsflash, even if only half the roster is stars, it's still more stars than any other team has. And then put the glue guys who make the system work. You know, put the Bam Adebayo, put the Jrue Holiday, put the Mikal Bridges, that sort of thing. Or you go with a coach who's less rigid, who can figure it out on the fly with a bunch of stars. I'm talking like Eric Spoelstra. You give Spoelstra this roster, he's probably not running the Steph Curry, Draymond Green offense as much, because he's just looking at it. He's like, okay, LeBron can play it. Bam can play it. Half these guys have 0 chance at figuring it out in 3 weeks. Correct. And I just want to make them go. So I'm just going to figure something out that has everyone going. And that's more having a coach who's less rigid and taking the best talent. So to me, it's just kind of like, you know, I feel like Steve's biggest strength is also his biggest weakness, which is like, he's idealistic, you know, and a single elimination tournament's not the time for idealism. It's a time for like win, because this team doesn't get a best. Remember feel out games and how he was like, man, the play-in, it's unfair because I just felt like we lost game one, but we're still in the series. Like, bro, it's this whole thing's a single elimination tournament. We don't have time for you to feel things out and be patient.
The irony is that the Warriors fall into this problem with Steve Kerr. That's the funny part. And so at some point it's like, well, is it the committee's fault or is it Steve's fault? And I think in this situation, man, there's more than enough talent. There's more than enough wing defense. There's more than enough role players for him to figure it out. Like, I think to your point, like, all right, well, you don't get Mikal Bridges. Maybe you get Derek White, right? Maybe you sit Devin. Like, I don't know why Devin Booker is in the starting lineup. Like, I was listening to Bill Simmons this morning, and fine, maybe. But they have enough shooting. They have enough scoring. They have enough everything in every single lineup. He needs to go and find the right ones where they have, so that they can play the right style of basketball. So right now, they don't have, like, the corny phrases. Right now, they just don't have an identity, which is hilarious. The Team USA identity is that it's their identity is that they're AAU. They are what people make fun of them for being. Is that they just put a bunch of guys together that have no idea how to play together, and they look like it. It's honestly, it's embarrassing because they don't know how to play together, because everyone's an ego player, right? Like you just said it. How many times do I have to freaking watch Ant hold the ball? How many times do I watch Jason Day hold the ball? How many times do I watch Embiid hold the ball? It's disgusting. And so I'm sitting here and I'm saying, then if you don't have the players, if they're not going to work in your system, then go bench a couple guys, right? And I think the point I was getting earlier, like I thought Simmons brought a good point. I was like, those other dream teams or those other Olympic teams, they went 8-9 team deep right now. Right now, Steve's going 5 in, 5 out. What is 5 in, 5 out, dude? Is this your son's little league basketball rec team? Like, what the fuck is 5 in, 5 out, man? And he waits until the last 3 minutes to put together his best lineup, which is classic Steve. You know, he knows what the best lineup is. It's Steph, LeBron, AD, and then two guys that are kind of like good role players, right? Drew, Derek White, and
3 guys.
Maybe Ant Edwards. Yeah, probably Ant, right? So he puts that lineup there at the end of the game, and I'm sitting here and I'm like, but why are you waiting until 4 minutes left in the game? Those guys have never played together. They're not just going to show up and know how to play together, right? You actually have to play your best lineup right now so that they can develop chemistry. You don't get to, like, putting Embiid to develop chemistry takes 6 months. Putting that small lineup with AD and LeBron and Steph and Ant and Drew, that's a lot of, because it works well, probably only takes 2 games to develop chemistry. But because he doesn't want to use that lineup, I don't know if it actually is going to work, Sam. It didn't work at the last couple of minutes against South Sudan because they never played together. So that didn't work, right?
Yeah.
And so it's just lack of to your point about Spo, that's the one I really agree with, because I would be fascinated to see what Spo does. I would love to see what he would do.
I mean, what coach regularly overperforms in the playoffs with less talent? Spo. That's exactly who you want in this type of situation. I will say, I mean, part of the reason Coach K was really good for this, I never really thought about it till now, is, but what's the NCAA tournament? Single elimination. If you're used to playing in kind of like, you know, win or go home settings, you kind of scrap the, you know, pie in the sky stuff, and you're like, let's pressure the ball and get out and run, because layups will always go in. You know, let's stop trying to overcomplicate this thing, because 40 minutes is not that long. All it takes is Serbia getting hot from 3, and next thing you know, you're like, we got to make up 15 points in 10 minutes. We can do it, but like 2 mistakes and 2 bad fouls. Yep. Yeah, exactly. Steph misses a couple shots. Devin Booker's cold. Something like that. Next thing you know, it's over, because it really isn't a long game. 40 minutes is not a long game, and you just can't throw away half of the game seeing what works. So,
and they didn't. I mean, I remember that Kobe LeBron team. Like, they blew out Spain in the first round, or in the qualifying round or whatever. But it was a close game in the championship round. Like, that thing was not. It was not a gimme, right? So you're right. Like, they're going to be close games in single elimination. One thing I want to point out too is I think this matters. I think this is going to mean a lot to Steve Kerr's legacy. You don't want to be the coach that loses in the Olympics with no excuses. They have no excuses for losing.
No.
Like, you don't, like, LeBron's
the rest
old,
of
what are we talking about?
The rest
right?
of the world is like laughing at the USA saying, "Oh, Embiid doesn't fit," and they're sitting here going like, "Bro, we're playing guys. There's at least 2 guys in our rotation who don't even play in high-level Europe ball. Like they
Yep.
play in smaller leagues there, but we make it
Yep.
work." Yeah, the one thing I will
JD4, right? Hitting that like corner 3. Like he's not even in the NBA anymore. Like he's not going to be in the NBA.
maybe the Warriors should throw him a 2-way. Was it? Yeah. Cool.
I think it matters. I think it matters to his legacy. I think this does. Who was the last coach that didn't win? Is it Larry Brown?
Larry Brown with
Yep.
and it forced all the big changes. And you are correct. They're sending, they're basically sending their A squad as much as you can out there. So they better come away with gold.
Yep.
That's all I'm gonna say. I kind of want to dive into the Steve stuff a little more, but
okay. Before we do, we are brought to you by Prize Picks. Prize Picks is America's #1 daily fantasy sports app with over 5 million members, active members. Prize Picks is the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Unlike other apps on Prize Picks, it's just you against the numbers. All you do is pick more or less on 2 to 6 player stat projections and watch the winnings roll in. You can now win up to 100 times your money on Prize Picks with as little as 4 correct picks. You can turn $10 into $1,000. With the finals over, the hoops action doesn't stop on Prize Picks. Women's basketball is still heating up with stars like Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese. You can win up to 100 times your cash watching them ball out. I made my first $100 deposit and received an instant $100 bonus. If you have the skills, you can play for a shot at turning your $10 into $1,000. Download the Prize Picks apps today and use code LIGHTYEARS for a first deposit match up to $100. That's code LIGHTYEARS on Prize Picks for deposit match up to $100. Pick more, pick less. It is that easy.
Do any of Steve's do any of these like little concerns and qualifiers make you concerned about Kerr coaching the Warriors next year? Or are you just kind of like, this is nothing I haven't known? Like we're kind of where we're at.
I'm just the latter, 100% the latter. There is nothing new that I'm seeing that concerns me because I have been concerned. But I mean, you saw the article the other day about Terry Stotts kind of like being brought in for kind of creativity on offense. Like Steve knows this stuff. Like they all know this stuff. You and I aren't sitting here talking about some stuff that the Warriors don't know.
We're not reinventing the wheel here.
Yeah, we're not. We're like, if we put this podcast in front of Kirk would be like, yeah, we know this. You know what I mean? Like this is why we brought in Kyle Anderson, right? This is why we brought in Buddy Hield. This is why we brought in D'Anthony Melton. Like those are guys that Steve Kerr is gonna like. Which is why we drafted TJD and Podz. Like, do you know how much Steve loves Podz? Like, this is why. So I'm not worried, but it's not because I'm not worried about the Warriors. I am worried about the Warriors. It's just this is Steve.
I will say, credit Big Mike Dunleavy and Kirk Lacob. They finally gave in and they're like, you know what? We're signing players that fit Steve's vision, and that's how we're gonna do it. And I think this often gets undersaid when people criticize Kerr. This is Steph's vision too. This is how Steph wants to play ball. Steph wants to play with bigs who find him relocating. He wants to play with Kyle Anderson because you know what Kyle Anderson does? Kyle Anderson sees Steph when he's relocating, he's able to get him the ball. He wants to play with Buddy Hield because Buddy knows how to move off ball. He wants to play with D'Anthony Melton because that ball pressure gets him out into transition. So I think that's what was so frustrating about 2019-20 when this team, like, 2 timelines. We're going to get Wiseman and teach him to play Warriors basketball. I'm just saying, I'm going like, I mean, I don't even know if he knows how to play NBA basketball. Forget Warriors basketball. You know what I'm saying? Like you're just not living in reality. Like you have guys who play essentially the most intuitive style of basketball, which requires incredible IQ. You got to be like Iguodala level to figure that out, right? And you're bringing in guys who, like, honestly would struggle with like college offenses. So, but anyway, we've relived that. We've gone through that. You see Quinten Post. Shout out Quinten Post. The summer.
Do you like him? Do you like him?
I do. I do. Look, I don't expect him to play on the team, but I said that about Podz and Trace, and they kind of surprised us and played a lot. Quinten Post may or may not be an NBA player, but his skill set definitely profiles as what the Warriors want. Skilled big man who can pass and shoot and rebound the ball, has enough feel. We'll see if he can handle NBA defense.
I think so. I got a chance to watch all the last Warrior Summer League games since our last show. I think I watched the last 3 Summer League games. And they were way more entertaining than I thought. I thought I would tune out by the second quarter, which is what I usually do the last like 5 years. But I watched all of it, and Quinten Post wasn't the one that jumped out to me just because he didn't get to play too much. Honestly, like he was minutes restriction,
coming off of an injury too. Yeah, you could tell he's rusty.
But the guys that I love, there's 2 guys that I loved. I know we're getting off topic here, but I want to throw these names out there to you. Pat Spencer. Love Pat Spencer. I had no idea that he was like the brother to this UConn guy that was like also now going to be in the league. Cam Spencer, that NBA like scouts love. But Pat Spencer, I know he was on the team last year. First off, he plays in a t-shirt, which is hilarious. Nobody plays in a t-shirt in the NBA. But he's really good, dude.
Peak college, right?
Peak college. But he's like really smart. He's got a solid handle. I didn't know he played point guard. I thought he was a classic white guy. I thought he was like just comes off screens and shoot threes, but he doesn't. Like that's not the way he plays at all. He's a really good ball handler, drives to the hole, makes really smart passing decisions, really good passer. Defensively, but like he's big. Like he's not tiny, he's big, strong. And so I love Podz
2.0.
He's quick, man. He's quicker than Podz, but obviously not.
He is quicker.
Podz way better.
He is quicker. Like the first step is objectively faster than Podz.
My God, I love him. So who knows what he ends up being, but it looks like he'll be in the G League. And then the other guy is so Plowden. I get it. He's athletic, can shoot threes, cool. Like 2-way contract, very cool story. But the other guy that I like was Kevin Knox. And I think
you're in on Kevin Knox?
I am.
He had a fucking hell of a game on Sunday when they got eliminated.
Maybe that's what swayed me. But some of the stuff is like he was a big draft pick, high draft pick, and so there's like some talent there. But his shot's really nice. He's got a nice looking shot. He's really strong. Like he got to like the mid-range part, pushed the guy off. Really nice, easy mid-range jumper, can get to the hole. Now he's like bigger than a lot of these guys because he's just been in the league for a while. But I can see the vision with him, right? Just a guy that's talented, that maybe you can bring some stuff out of him. Maybe he gets a chance at training camp to get a guaranteed contract spot with this team. But I like him. Maybe I thought he'd be a little more athletic, but he's got the NBA strength. He's got the shoot. The shot is really nice. And he's got a good bit of handle. He doesn't try to too much. Like he wasn't ball hogging, right? Like that's the stuff that I like don't enjoy seeing in summer league, where guys are like, well, I'm the veteran here, I'm gonna go shoot it 25 times, right? Like he didn't even start these games. But Kevin Knox is someone I enjoyed. So Pat Spencer and Kevin Knox, man, I enjoyed watching the summer league team.
I mean, there's a reason Kevin Knox was a lottery pick. He has like the prototypical build for like a 3-4. Like he's, how like everyone lists at 6'7", and a lot of guys are more like 6'4.5", 6'5". He's like 6'9". Like he's big dude. When I watch him in person, he pops. Like he was the tallest. He was the same height, not quite like the lower body, but the same height and like shoulders as Trace Jackson Davis. So he's a big dude, but like raw project, and the skill level wasn't there. If the shot's for real, I'm calling it right now, he will be on the Warriors because he's got the phys. Like you just don't find 6'8" guys who have that level of athleticism, 7+ foot wingspan, who can guard, who have like NBA tools. Just on the scrap heap. Usually you find Anthony Lamb on the scrap heap, like I'm not like, it's just reality. So if he's just a late bloomer, came out too early, wasn't in the right development environment, washed out, the Warriors get to pick him up at 24, 25 when he's a little more confident with the shot and understands kind of the intensity you got to play with to be a glue guy in the NBA. They might have found money there because he has lottery ticket physical measurements. That's real, and they're not going to pass on him if they think the shot's for real. They'll find, Guy Santos, we love you, but you can go back to Brazil. It's going to be that type of, I don't think he's 2-way. I'm going to double check it right now. He's not 2-way eligible because he's been in the NBA too long. So they would have to give him a roster spot, but yeah, I mean, I just think there's a real chance there. And you know what? You're kind of talking me into him. For me, it's about the shot.
And I thought it looked nice. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it's not there. But funny thing with Kevin Knox, I was looking him up. He also has a brother named Carter Cox, spelled with a K. Guess they like K's. But he's like maybe a lottery pick in next year's draft too. Maybe. But I thought that's kind of funny. Anyway, I thought maybe they were like the sons of like a ex like player.
Sure.
Anyway, I thought it was cool. They got a lot of talent. Anyway, he's 24.
So I'm gonna put it this way: Trace Jackson Davis measured 6'8.25 without shoes at the combine. Kevin Knox measured 6'8 without shoes. So 6'9 with shoes, 7-foot wingspan, 9-foot standing reach. Like, I mean, he's big. He's like you just don't find guys like that on the scrap heap. So that'll be, you know what? It reminds me, it's not a 1-for-1, but it reminds me of like Nickeil Alexander-Walker, like how he was like a big draft pick, flamed out, but like obviously you just don't find 6'6" guys with a 7-foot wingspan who are that quick, right? Like he has lottery pick tools, right? And they get to Minnesota, and all of a sudden, the shot comes around. He realizes I'm not going to be, I'm not going to be Rip Hamilton. I'm not going to be Klay Thompson. I need to be a glue guy type of thing, and then he takes off on that front. Maybe that's the Kevin Knox story. That'd be great for the Warriors.
It's like a homeless man's version of the Andrew Wiggins story. The NBA is littered with these like lottery picks that don't make it.
Come out too early, not in the right, exactly. Because it's like it's not like baseball where you got like minor leagues, and it's kind of sink or swim. And when you get drafted, you can either figure it out against the pros, or like, shit, man, you're like Kevin Knox. You're at summer league after year 6 trying to get a job,
But you're still only 24, and that's crazy.
Yeah, he's a whopping 4 months older than Trace Jackson Davis. So it's just kind of like I wouldn't. Yeah, exactly. I wouldn't write off the upside at all. Last thing before we get out of here. Our guy, Marc Stein, put out some thoughts on the long-term Lauri Markkanen Warriors saga. Can we officially say, like, it's weird, but it does really feel like it's just the Warriors right now. Unless someone comes in at the 11th hour, it's just a Warriors negotiation. I mean, those things can change. So he goes, there's belief in some corners that if the Warriors put Podz in the deal with some picks, it's done today. Wow. And then there's growing belief that the Warriors would be more willing to move Kuminga than Podz. And there's belief that's what the holdup is here. Give me your initial thoughts, because I have a bunch of thoughts.
Yeah. Okay. I read this yesterday, and I got excited because it felt like the last week or 2 weeks was spent wasting time. Not us wasting time, but like because they had to wait until August 6th, that we're just not going to hear anything. And Danny Ainge and Dunleavy and those guys were kind of just like, okay, we're going to sit. This feels like concrete. Now there's like real urgency. It's the 22nd. And there's some real urgency that this is going to need to get done, obviously, by the next 2 weeks. So we're going to hear more leaks about what actually needs to happen to get it done, which then leads to what you're saying after seeing what Marc Stein wrote about, hey, if Podz is in it and some picks, then the deal is done. Because we haven't heard anything about that fact. All we've heard was, well, maybe if Podz, Kuminga, Moody, and 6 picks are in, maybe that's a deal. It's like obvious bullshit. Now we're hearing, okay, if it's Podz and picks, deal gets done. Which I'm still a little like, I'm kind of calling BS on it, Sam. I'm kind of sitting here and saying, is that like, do you really want? And this is not a Podz like thing. It's just, do you guys really want Podz that badly? Like, this is really about Podz? Like, is that really what you want? And so I'm still a little unsure, but I'm now a little more confident that something does get done, because we are hearing, like, from based on this, like, okay, this is actually quote unquote what they want. All right. Now there's some real stuff happening.
Here's what I think. I think Moody and 2 picks is the best offer that they have for Lauri Markkanen right now.
That's comedy.
And they want the Warriors to sweeten it. And obviously, Podz is a more attractive asset than Moody. So would more draft picks, but the Warriors just don't have means to get more draft picks. I think it's out there because they don't have any other offers. And I'm going to take it one step further. I don't think Utah wants to pay Lauri Markkanen. I really don't. And I think the Warriors are operating with the intel that no one else is going for him, and Utah does not want to give him $200 million because he'll be less tradable, not more tradable. Are you watching what's happening with these B-list stars when they get huge contracts? They're not tradable. Utah wants to move downward. If they keep Lauri, they'll be good enough to not get Cooper Flagg or Ace Bailey or basically whoever the top 3 to 4 difference makers are in this draft, right?
What I mean, yeah.
And they're going to be stuck. So look, the proof will be in the pudding. If the Warriors play this correctly and end up getting Lauri without having to give up everything, then to them. But that's what it feels like. To me, this feels like Utah doesn't have a better offer, and the Warriors are calling BS on them because it's July 22nd. Now, if someone comes in on August 3rd and smokes the Warriors offer and they lose out on him, then we're having a much different conversation.
Yeah.
Then you and I are quite pissed. But that's the game they're playing. And you know what? We're either going to be doing a podcast in 2 weeks where I'm issuing a public statement where I apologize to Kirk Lacob and give him his props and say, you are the one. I was skeptical, but you proved me wrong. I apologize. I wasn't familiar with your game. Or he's going to hear it again, the same shit we've been saying for 5 fucking years. But I mean, that's the way I'm seeing this game right now. That's the way I'm seeing this game.
So the one pushback and then one thing about the timeline stuff is if they do pay him, everything you hear about the salary cap, it is going up. There's going to be another explosion here in the next couple years, right? So maybe that helps them. Maybe they're like, okay, maybe we can pay him. But to your Cooper Flagg point, like there's nothing they can do about that. Like this might tank their chances. Ironically, might tank their chances at tanking for Cooper Flagg unless they come up with a bullshit excuse for Lauri. Oh, you're out for season 20 games in, but why would Lauri sign up for that? Like he's in his prime. He's just not going to play half the season in his prime. And that's absolutely ridiculous.
And that's the part of the equation that no one is speaking on. Do you think he's enjoyed being shut down healthy the last 2 years?
Ridiculous.
I can't imagine he is. He was an all-star. He was an all-star for the first time, and then they're telling him in March, "Hey, man, your hammy's looking tender. You should sit." That
Crazy.
sort of thing. How many years does he want to do that? How many years in a row does he want to do that? So to me, we can argue about Podz versus Kuminga all we want. I think it's pretty obvious why they want Podz more. 3 years cheaper, team control. Right. You don't have to pay him. And quite frankly, he's the better player right now. These teams are operating with the same information that the Warriors are operating with. He has more of an impact on winning. If you buy his shot, you think he's a better prospect long-term. But really, it's just about the money. I think if Kuminga was in year one, they'd probably take him just as much because they're like, yeah, we got 3 years to figure out if we love him or we don't.
Yep. If both of them were the same year, like it's pretty close. It's a coin flip. You pick Kuminga. You're right. And remember, I argued about this, and I was with Kuminga. Now I'm fully on your side on the pricing because I'm like, it really makes no sense for them to trade for him and then pay for him. But to your point about August 3rd, I actually think the Warriors are better off waiting till then because you're gonna get a chance to counteroffer unless Ainge doesn't let you. Then that's just on Ainge. That's not on you. But if somebody comes in but
it would be on you if you had this period of time you could have got it done and waited, So,
but do you know what is the you could have got it done? What is that offer, right? Because maybe that offer that play isn't actually there, right? Because again, this is based on a lot of assumptions, but it's like, yeah, you could get it done right now, but what if getting it done is putting Podz, picks, Kuminga, and more picks in the deal. So yes, technically you could get it done right now, but in August 3rd, you might get it done with half of that. I think is what is what I'm trying to say. And maybe the Thunder come in on August 3rd and maybe they blow it out the water and there's nothing.
And I think that's your biggest fear is another bidder shows up and offers something that Ainge likes more. It's like the Spurs throw 6 picks out there or something like that. Then you're just going to spend all year wondering, what if we just put Podz on the table and put another pick on the table on July 22nd
and get it done and have it done now, which again, like I don't know if that would I feel like Ainge,
because remember Donovan Mitchell, everyone thought he was going to the Knicks, and the Knicks were doing what the Warriors were doing, which is we're not going to bid against ourselves, buddy. Why would we bid against ourselves? What are you doing? And then the Cavs come out of nowhere, and I didn't think about the Cavs were interested. Like, why would they want him? They have Darius Garland, like that sort of thing. Well, they put stuff on the table that the Knicks weren't willing to. And so I'm not saying that's what's going to happen, but that is a legitimate risk.
And then it somehow worked out for the Knicks because they got Brunson. And then they did the same thing themselves to get Bridges. Is they put everything on the table for Bridges, which is funny. So that the Knicks, the
Mitchell should have gone to Villanova, right?
Which, the Cavs, like that roster construction is funny. Like, are they going to trade Garland in a couple of years? And what does Garland's contract look like? Anyway, I think even if another team comes in, the Warriors still have a chance to get. Like, I just don't think there's going to be this. Donovan Mitchell's a lot better than Lauri Markkanen. He's a lot marketable. He's a playmaker with the ball in his hand. He
also had 2 to 3 years under contract at the time. Whereas Lauri, we know the situation. So
it does look like it's working in the Warriors' way. But yeah, why would the Spurs want Lauri Markkanen? They're the other team. It's just like, why would the Spurs want him?
Look, man, we're going to. Between now and that August 8th, we're going to be thinking about it. Some days I'll be confident, some days I'll be pessimistic, and some days I'll be in the middle. Appreciate everyone for listening. We'll be back.